Hey Jay.
Hello, Nick. How's it going?
Good, and yourself?
I'm not too bad, thank you. I'm coffeeing up, and yeah, the clocks changed for us last weekend, and for some reason, it's still messing with my brain.
Oh no, it'll take some time to adjust for sure.
It's just an hour. It feels like every year that goes on, that adjustment for some reason just like screws with me, and yeah, it's such an old man thing, but it's so true.
Do you disagree with the time change?
My body does, but
Okay.
no. I love having more daylight at the end of the day.
Same.
We have like, it's not a farm, but we've got like a bunch of animals and things out the back. We've got goats and ducks and things. So it's nice for them because in the winter there's a lot more darkness, obviously, and they are inside for more time. And now they get to spend more time outside, which is nice, and we get to spend more time outside with them. So that's really nice. I'm a bitch if my sleep gets affected.
Me too.
And my sleep was massively affected last night, which is so annoying. I was awake from between like 4 a.m. and, but man, more like half three until about 6. And I'm like, oh, come on. Because I know I've got this today and I've got a couple of other things. So I'm like, typical that'll happen the day before I'm doing things. But
Of course.
that's what coffee's for.
Yes, that's it. How many do you drink a day?
Not many. I make a nice pour over in the morning, like a filter coffee. With all the touring that Tesseract does, we've discovered like amazing coffee around the world, and there's a guy, Tim Wendelboe in Oslo in Norway, and he just makes insane coffee, and I get his stuff sent over, and I'll make one of these a day, and that's amazing. Just one cup. If I have another one, I'm on edge, and it's just the caffeine, because the caffeine content of a pour over is so high, it messes me up. So yeah, just the one.
Understand.
I would drink it all day otherwise.
Same here. I fought so hard to limit myself to 2 maximum. Mm-hmm. But even then, sometimes I sneak a cheeky one in there if I need it, or if I think I need it.
I'll occasionally have there's a company called Four Sigmatic that do like the mushroom coffee, like the lion's mane mushroom and all of those new fancy ones that's supposed to be good for your brain. And the caffeine content of one of those is like half an espresso. So I'll have one of them around midday if I'm feeling like a little tasty coffee, but or just a decaf. We have like an espresso machine. I make a decaf as well. But man, I love the taste of this in the morning, but it hates being in me past midday.
I think that's the con to coffee.
Mm-hmm. It wants to keep me awake all night.
I've also whacked recording on now just so I don't risk forgetting hitting record.
Yeah, I've been recording. Yeah, I'm recording in OBS on my end as well, so I've got this. I haven't got your audio going in. In fact, could you just say something real quick?
Testing.
Yeah, that's good. It's just my voice, just so that there isn't strange echoes or anything, and I'll drop this into Dropbox for you later.
Thanks so much.
Easy.
Okay, so we've got roughly an hour. I'll set a reminder or an alarm for about 50 minutes because I want to make sure I ask the questions from Derrick McKenzie, Anup Sastry, and Nic Pettersen.
Okay.
They've got some good questions which I wouldn't have really asked myself, so I definitely want to ask these. But if you're ready to begin, let's begin.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So how did you get into drumming in the first place, and what was your journey from when you started? Because from what I understand, you started at 14 or 13?
Yeah, it was about 13, 14.
Okay. So can you take us from there until today, basically?
Yeah, I'll try and be as as concise as possible because I can talk. So I was in school, as a lot of young people are. I was playing keyboards in a band with myself, my buddy Steve, and my buddy Dan as well. And we've been playing as a band for like 6 months, something like that. And then one day Steve just turns around and he's like, "Why don't you play the drums? Because we don't really need a keyboard player, and you can't really hear the keyboards in the room anyway." Because I was just using a Casio keyboard with like the built-in speakers. That was it. That was my mode of amplifying it. And there was this old like vintage, well, it probably wasn't vintage at the time, it was probably quite new, Premiere kit in the room, and I sat behind it and I just kind of knew what to do, which was crazy. We were playing like Nirvana covers and stuff like that, and I sat down and Smells Like Teen Spirit, just straight in, and I could just do it. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to be drumming then. And shortly after that, the music teacher at the school realised that I could play the drums and threw me into the Beatles concert that we were doing. There was like a 2-day Beatles medley thing that the kids were doing at the school, and told my parents I'm doing that, and they come down one night with one set of grandparents and the second night with the other set of grandparents, and they realised, oh, he's actually playing the drums. They thought I was just playing the drums for like a little bit of a song, but it was like the entire concert. And then everyone clubbed together, and for that next Christmas they got me a drum kit, and yeah, it was just school bands all the way through school. I was always in some kind of band that would play after school, and we'd play all the Battle of the Bands and those kinds of things. And then after school, I suppose like after high school, I was just trying to find my way with it all, because I knew that I wanted to just be doing music and playing and composing and recording, and that isn't really an option for most, let's say, you have to have like careers meetings at school every like few months. You'd go and see this guy and he'd be like, "So what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Well, I know what I want to do. I want to do music." He's like, "Yeah, but what do you want to do?" You know, I'm like, "Okay, well," I kind of ended up just getting a basic admin job just to fund continuing to do music, because I'd gone to sixth form in the UK, which is like kind of the equivalent to college, just to have 2 more years where I had no responsibilities and I could play music. And then after that, I was looking for an excuse to do the same thing for another couple of years, but it was like then university, and then there's loads of costs associated with it, so I couldn't justify that. I also didn't get into the college that I wanted to get into, which was Drum Tech in Acton, which is like a drum school. And I thought at that point, let's just get some money, invest it where I want to invest it, which is in myself and in my skills and in my equipment and a space to do it as well. And then there were just a series of bands that led to Tesseract. And at pretty much every stage, I was convinced that I was in the band that was going to be my career band, with a couple of exceptions. But yeah, it's always been just a real driving force that this is leading to what it's led to.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things I want to ask there, but first thing is, I heard in another interview that you just reached out to Ackle on a forum. Is that right? And that's how you're sort of connected?
So, kind of, yeah. Ackle is the main writer in Tesseract, and he was writing stuff since like 2003, just in his bedroom in Milton Keynes. And I heard it because the guitarist of the band that I was in at the time, before Tesseract, sent me a link to Tesseract's MySpace. And I didn't know that it wasn't real drums. I thought it was this full band. And because it was so good, it sounded so accomplished. You know, the drums sounded real, they sounded dynamic, and everything else about it was just so polished. There's no way that this was one guy, and it was just him in his bedroom. So I quickly dropped him a message. I think it was just through MySpace, asking if he had a band. And I think at the time there was a bassist, a vocalist in France, there was a drummer that was kind of penciled in the US, and then there was another drummer, Steph Brox, who was the Textures drummer, who was like penciled in for any UK or European opportunities. But Ackle was busy at the time with Fell Silent, his other band, so and that was kind of ticking all the boxes for him because it was doing well. Like Fell Silent was doing a lot of shows, and they'd got an album coming up, and they got a US tour. So really, Tesseract was like this idea that maybe one day. And from what I remember, the material that he was writing with Tesseract was stuff that kind of Fell Silent couldn't quite play, if that makes sense. So it was maybe slightly more adventurous Ackle stuff, and he didn't think that these guys were quite capable of doing it. That might be a lie, but I seem to remember that from a while ago. And yeah, I reached out to him. I said to him, look, I want to be a part of this. This is flipping amazing. And just by chance, like, we stayed in contact. He sent me all of his demos, this was before the internet was even good enough for him to like send me all of his demos over the internet. He sent me an MP3 CD in the post.
Oh wow!
With like everything on it, because he's like, oh yeah, I can't. They were just on my computer. I'm not going to upload them somewhere. I just have this CD, and I listened to everything on that CD for like a year, and then completely by chance, I got a call from my guitarist saying, Jay, I was at work, right? And I was the personal assistant for a senior civil servant in Guildford in the UK, and I was completely rubbish at that job. I was terrible at it, and I hated it, and the guy hated me. And I got this call. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon. I had to leave at 5. Normally my shift would end at 5. And Ali, the guitarist of my band's like, mate, we've been asked to open for Fell Silent, who are supporting Enter Shikari in Luton. And I'm like, he says, can we get there? Because like we've got to be playing at like 7:30 when the doors open. And I'm looking at my clock, and I'm like, yeah, I can be there. I can definitely be there. So I just leave. I just exit work. I'm like, I'm gone. And I didn't say anything. My boss wasn't in anyway. I'm just like, I'm gone. I can make an excuse for this. Jumped on the train. It's like a 50-minute train back to Reading, where I was living. Get my kit in the car. Get in the car. Drive through the rush hour to Luton. Get everything set up. We've got like 20 minutes to spare before we're on stage, and then we play our set. It's fine. And I turn around at the end, and Ackle's just there, like, grinning and nodding his head at like the back of the stage, and he's like, yeah man, let's sort out that jam. And we sorted out a jam, and I'd got my own rehearsal studios in Reading at the time as well, which was fortunate. So it was like pretty easy for them guys to come to me and just leave stuff there, and yeah, it all snowballed from there.
Wow. It's I guess it was meant to be then.
I feel like it was a lot of right things happened at the right moment, you know, meeting the right people, taking a couple of risks. I mean, risks in hindsight look like opportunities, and you've kind of got to, you know, you have to do these things. Like the setting up rehearsal studios when I was like 21, massive risk. I just threw all my money into this thing because I wanted a place to keep my kit set up all the time, but it turned into a thing that was like a thriving business really in down in Reading. There was 4 studios. They were rented out nearly all the time. The money from that enabled me to not need a day job while Tesseract was in its infancy, so I could like actually go on tour and do stuff.
Wow.
And I mean, the same, just abandoning my job post to go and do this gig. I could have got sacked for that, but you know, I've got bills to pay. But I didn't. I said I made up a little lie the next day that the guy believed. But yeah, maybe take those risks a little bit more seriously. But yeah, it's all worked out, and continues to do so, and it's been wild.
Amazing. And that whole time, like when you were doing your day job, were you like, you still had that desire to make something of music?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The day job thing, I was under no illusions. The day job was the day job, and it was funding my ability to keep investing in the thing I was trying to do, which was music. And I had no other. There was no other option. You know, I'm qualified for nothing, and I was in the kind of job that could very easily just become the thing I do forever if I don't get out of it. And for me, it was too painful to imagine doing that until retirement age. I'm like, this, absolutely no way. You know, I'm not knocking on anyone that does that, because it's admirable. You know, my dad stayed in security, and my mum as well, like all through and it was to support me and my sister. but you know, I realized so young what it was that I wanted to do, and it was such a strong driving force, and I just had a belief. It was like, this is, and I'm sure everyone does. It's kind of this not arrogance. It's just a blind belief. You can't faith. Yeah. It's knowing, but you try and explain to someone. You know, I think everyone goes through this, especially if you're working in a job. Let's say you're working in a McDonald's or you're working in an office and it's shit and you don't enjoy it, and you're the person in a band that's at that job, and to you this band is like, it's going to get me out of here. It's going to be, you know, I know where this is going. I can see myself out of this situation. I was that guy, you know, trying to get people to come to my gig, telling everyone at work, I've got a gig in a couple of weeks, like, you know, selling the tickets and selling the CDs at work. And I think everyone's that person at the start. Yeah. And, you know, so we all come from the same place. I think some people just abandon ship a little too early, potentially, when it gets difficult, because it does get difficult. You know, as you get older, you accumulate responsibilities, and, you know, it becomes more and more difficult. But I think there's pretty clear signs if the band that you're in is the right one, to keep pursuing those opportunities. And that's something that I encourage, because I work with a lot of drummers as well and students, and something that one of the first lessons I actually talk to them about if they're trying to make music a career is the band that you're in. The hardest question, is it the band or is it a stepping stone? Because you've got to think about that. Like, the longer you're in a situation that isn't right, you're not doing yourself a good service. But at pretty much every stage with Tesseract and before, I'm like, this is the thing. This is definitely the thing. And I was gutted when the previous things didn't, you know, when it all fell apart with the previous bands. But I had to believe at the time that they were going to be the one that would reach escape velocity.
Yeah. Were, like, can you not suggest, but were there any red flags that you would pass on to anyone watching this that they should sort of keep an eye out for to know that it's not the right band?
Yeah. Number one, gut reaction. Honestly, your instinct is incredibly powerful, and if there's something wrong that your head's refusing to believe but your heart knows, listen to it 100%. Ask yourself if the people that you're in a band with, would you want to be in business with them, because a band becomes a business. Do you trust these people with finances and to make wise decisions? And, you know, is someone immediately not pulling their weight? That's a pretty obvious one. And also, I mean, maybe this is true for people that are a little early on in the journey, but let's say you got 4 people in a band. There might be 2 of you that are designing your life to be able to do it. And then there's another 2 who are like, well, no, I've got this plan. I'm actually going to engineering school. And then I'm planning to work my way up this bank or whatever. And the people have got kind of different, let's call them secret agendas. They're the things you don't really want to talk about when you're in a band, because it's so much fun socializing and having these rehearsals, and that is a huge part of it. And maybe that's fine. Maybe you're just in this band for a little while and it's just fun and you're just socializing and there's no real goals to make it this big thing. Because I was in a band like that and it was perfect. It was so good. But just be honest with that stuff and really ask yourself, is it the band or is it a stepping stone? And if everyone does that, and if you're willing to have that kind of conversation with the band, at least you know where you stand. Yeah.
And like, time is the most precious thing as well, so you don't want to be wasting it, basically.
Yeah, don't waste it. You get one go, as far as we know. Maybe you get multiple goes, who knows? But yeah, just don't waste time. As a drummer, it's your job to master time, so don't waste it.
There's something deeply philosophical in that quote somewhere.
Yeah.
And going back to when you did meet Ackle at that gig, your own drumming journey, where were you at then? Like, had you received lessons? Were you just like self-taught? did you even feel ready to tackle on the Tesseract stuff at that point?
I felt confident enough to tackle the Tesseract stuff, but if you listen, I've got a recording from that first jam that we had, and it was terrible. You know, we were playing the songs that he'd recorded using the 2-track software and Cubase, and they sounded amazing. And I'm like, man, this is the bar to reach, right? But yeah, we were shocking. It was out of time and lousy, and I hadn't got the coordination to do all this stuff. But I could see how it would be possible eventually. So I consider myself self-taught. Mm-hmm. I had in my very early years at school, let's say, I don't know, 14, 15, something like that, there was one lesson every week that I could get out of to go and have a drum lesson. And it was like a 30-minute drum lesson with a guy that came to the school. But in those lessons, it was trying to get me through the grades, right? I think I got up to grade 6 at school. And really, though, what was happening in those lessons is I was learning a song that the guy, he would play it, and then he'd have the sheet music in front of me, and I'd basically just remember what he'd played because I couldn't read the music. It's always just been dots and on a screen to me. I can kind of read it now if I'm sat at my computer and I've got Guitar Pro open as I do for some of my lessons. You know, I can program something in that way. But if you just gave me the static music, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't help me. So
okay.
I wasn't really learning that side of things, even though they were trying to teach me that. And I managed to like bumble my way through the grades up to grade 6, and then didn't even try grade 8 because there was all this sight reading and stuff you had to do. And I thought, well, I'm not really interested in that. And the good thing, these music teachers actually helped me. They got me into a couple of like orchestras, like youth orchestras as well, which gave me a bit of live experience, which was handy at a young age. But I don't know how formative those few lessons that I had really were to my playing, because I already knew my style, if that makes sense. Like this is the kind of stuff I want to do. This is what I'm focused on. It was never this broad brush. Oh, I want to understand a bit about these kind of rhythms and these kind of rhythms and this style of playing and all these different techniques and things. It was like, no, I get the most enjoyment out of finding my own path. And whenever it was the same with keyboards, my parents tried to get me lessons for keyboards, and I hated it, absolutely hated it, because it took the thing that I enjoyed and turned it into a chore. Mm-hmm. And I encourage anyone, if you're working with a teacher who's like, I've had this as well, this is crazy, when some drum teachers are like, right, learn the rudiments and learn to read and learn theory, and then I'll let you behind a drum kit, then I'll let you play the music you want to play. Are you crazy? Like I understand the whole like learning to crawl before you can walk or walk before you can run, but the whole thing you want to do is turn up and like do the fun thing, which is play along to music that you enjoy. And the thing that I found is that in just trying to do that, you pretty quickly figure out what you can and can't do, and then it gives you a recipe for the next thing that you should learn. And I've just got better at identifying that over the years, and I share that kind of thing with my students as well. It's like it's pretty easy to listen to, and especially nowadays with cameras, to observe, right? You can shoot yourself on a camera and very quickly see what isn't working, and you can feel what isn't working as well pretty easily. So yeah, I consider myself self-taught, going back to all of that. I applied to drum tech. I didn't get in. I did have a handful of lessons with a guy called Andy Edwards in the Midlands in the UK when I was trying to get into drum tech, because you had to know what like molar technique was, and you had to understand a little bit about all these different rhythms. And right at the beginning of those lessons, he said to me, after a bit of a conversation, he was like, "You're going to have these lessons with me, and then you're not going to want to go." As in to drum tech, you're not going to want to do it. I'm like, oh. And he said, I can just tell, like you know what it is that you want to do. But I'm like, okay. And sure enough, he was dead right. I didn't want to go and do it. I went down and did performance exam, and then they put the written exam in front of me, and I couldn't even do the first question on it because it was. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not getting in here then, am I? And it was right in the end, because then I was able to make some money and pay for a rehearsal space and rehearse all the time and just focus on what it was I wanted to do, instead of having to do, I don't know, 6 months on a bunch of rhythms that I'm never going to use.
I think that was like, for you, that may have been the best lesson.
Yeah. Seriously.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Again, it was listening to your gut. I knew that wasn't the right choice, but I just wanted to carry on. I wanted an excuse to do music all day, every day, and that would have enabled that. It would have come with its own terms, which is you're doing music all the day, but you have to actually learn to do this, and you actually have to learn to do this. And that, I think, I would have done terrible at that. I would have, under those rules, I don't think I'd have thrived at all. And instead, I went into a different set of rules, which was an office, but at least I was able to generate some income to fund getting to this stage.
Like, I think not having that, I guess, structured lesson approach or education has contributed to your playing now, because I genuinely believe your drumming is truly unique. There's just something about it. I don't know what it is. You look really good when you play, but also it's just so, I don't know, it feels like it has its own life in the playing, and there's so many like little subtleties in there as well. I guess I'm trying to say there's so many layers to what you're doing in the Tesseract stuff.
I appreciate that. I like to think of it as like a drummer's personality, right? And I think it's going to be true for every instrument that someone might play. After you've explored it, like truly explored it, and gone down the rabbit holes that most interest you, if you follow the things that you're most excited about learning, you end up in a fairly niche place, right? You end up in this place that isn't going to sound like everyone else, and I think at that point you become valuable. I think that's the point at which you can start to really have relationships with the companies that you want to work with, and you can start to make some money as a musician. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of commitment to get to a point where, frankly, you can pay for anything. Because, it's right at the start of my career, the ability for completely real sounding recordings on your computer without a drummer started to be the thing. You got this amazing software, the Toontrack Superior Drummer and Easy Drummer, and you've got the Get Good Drums and all of that stuff. And these things replace drummers on recordings, but they're also amazing tools for learning and for writing stuff that you can't yet play, and then having the tool and the resolution to zoom in and see the idea and slow it down and loop sections and do all of that, which has expedited the learning process for me with complex things a crazy amount. So I think the more that you get interested and you uncover what it is, you identify, no, I'm actually interested in this part of doing this and this style of doing this. Follow that, because you end up at a place where you sound like you. And at that point, you're content. Like, I'm totally happy with where I am as a player. I can hear things I can't do, and I can work on those things, and I'll get to a different place. And similarly, you land on the techniques that work for you. And the thing that I see a lot of people do kind of incorrectly with technique is that they want the results of good technique in a week. I want faster double kick. I'm like, yeah, you do. Everyone wants that. I want faster, cleaner single strokes and double strokes. Yes, so does literally everyone. But you can't be mad about the results you didn't get for the work you didn't do.
Yes.
So
very true.
A lot of people, you have to put in, you have to put in work. And the best way to get those things better is a little bit of work regularly. Consistency is the key to all of it. So if you're trying to get better at single strokes, double strokes, any rudiment that you're trying to work on, that you're trying to realize musically, double kick, technique or speed, 10 or 15 minutes a day, and do timing ladders where you're doing different note lengths to a metronome, and start a little slower than your max speed, drop a little bit more after 20-30 seconds, and then boost to about 5 BPM faster, and do that for 10 or 15 minutes, and watch what happens after like a month, and then 2 months and 3 months. But the thing is, you actually have to turn up and do it.
Oh yeah. Sometimes that's the hardest part for people, is just getting on the seat, but once they're there,
make it easy. That's the step before all of that. You've got to make turning up easy. And like, you don't have a drum kit at home, but you want to improve at the drums. Okay. Then you're going to struggle. It's like, I want to become a championship Olympic swimmer, but I've got access to a pool once a week.
Yeah.
Bit of a problem. The fallback position is pads, and you can make pads interesting. If you get a couple of different ones and you have a kick pad, that can work. But really, pads are just a fallback position for me if I can't practice on anything else. But I practice on an E-kit now, like all the time, because it's just brilliant.
Are you using, this is just a quick surface level question, but are you just using the inbuilt sounds, or are you running a plug-in through a door or something?
I'm running through TuneTrack Superior Drummer 3, and I've made a kit in there that's like sounds pretty much like my kit, or how I hear my kit when I'm sat behind it. It's real easy. You just plug it in, you say to TuneTrack software, hey, I'm using a Roland TD50 or whatever you're using, and it goes and does all of the settings, and then you just dial in the velocity, the sensitivities and all of those things, change the sounds, add the instruments, and you're good to go.
Nice. Could we go back to the rabbit hole concept of finding the things that you personally wanted to chase when you were developing your own playing? Well,
so I knew that the main thing was like odd timing. Okay. Odd timing was, that's so broad because it's polyrhythms and it's metric modulation and it's displacement and it's subdivisions and blah, blah, blah. You got all these words for odd timing. But really, I was listening to bands like Meshuggah and Dillinger Escape Plan and Sixth. There's probably more that I'm forgetting, but there were all these bands that were playing around with things that weren't just straight. And even if it was straight, you could nod your head to it, but there's this insane pattern that's repeating at this strange interval, but they're still making it groove, especially Meshuggah. And as soon as I heard that kind of thing happen, I'm like, that is it, man. That is flipping it. Like, those guys are absolute, like, they're the founding fathers, man. They're flipping amazing. And I could hear that in Ackle's demos. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, man, this guy's he's taken the Meshuggah formula and kind of added his own spice to it, and it's different. It's different enough to not just be a straight rip-off. And I don't think it sounds anything like Meshuggah now. I think that the influence is clear, but then it probably is in a million other bands. So yeah, really, it was odd timing that started to interest me, but specifically, how do I make these things groove? And on my lunch breaks and stuff when I was at work, and I'm on the way there and on the way back on the commute, I'd just be listening to this stuff and specifically just trying to count where the quarter notes were, where the eighth notes were, and really understand that feel. And I feel as though I got a good education, honestly, just by listening to that music so much and really understanding it. And like, I'd be sitting down on the train, like 40 minutes to and from work, and I'd just kind of be quietly air drumming on my legs, tapping out my pedal hat. My left foot would be doing the eighth notes on the pedal hat, and I'd be nodding or keeping a little back and forth on the quarter notes and realizing where the snares land. And so many hours I put into that. So, like, countless hours. I couldn't even estimate, but over years I was just doing that for hours a day. And then when I sat behind the kit, I could kind of do it.
Wow.
Because I'd practiced so much off the kit. Yes, there's there's technique, and you have to understand a little bit more how to move around a kit. The limb independence doesn't necessarily happen immediately. You have to practice on the thing, but the understanding of the timing was very established, and that's an easy thing to practice off the kit, and that's what I was doing all the time. So that's a rabbit hole that I've really dug out into a giant cave, and yeah, there's still little offshoots that I could go and explore even further today.
That shows the power of listening. Like,
yeah,
just simply listening to the music and listening to the beats.
Yeah, big time. And I think there's there's a powerful trio of things when learning this stuff. So like what you hear, you forget unless you listen to it a lot. What you see, you understand, and what you do, you remember. And if I listen to something enough, it takes a long time to brute force just listening something to the point of knowing it. But then if you've got an asset, like I'll program the drums in if I'm learning something super complex, so I can see what I've got to do, and that gives me a better understanding of it. And then doing the thing, which is sitting behind the kit with the MIDI on the screen, listening to it, doing all those three, and doing that for a short amount of time regularly, oh my days, it enables me to learn something super quick, ridiculously quick. So it can be any pattern that I can't previously play, and in like 2 days now I've got it. Versus just listening, which is what I was doing years ago, and it would take months sometimes. Like the early Tesseract stuff, if I knew what I knew now about how to learn this stuff, I could have had a rehearsal with Ackle a week after he sent me that CD.
It's wisdom now.
It's wisdom. You have to live a life.
Yeah.
You have to live a life to understand this stuff.
Certainly. And apart from doing that, like, what did practice look like for you when you were trying to simulate these odd rhythms or like different time signature based grooves?
Yeah. So I was quite lucky. I had a rehearsal room, and it was available in the early years. I was able to get in there a couple of times a week. That I only had maybe a little bit of time in rehearsals before guitarists and stuff would turn up to practice this stuff. But I was mainly listening, if I'm honest, and then I'd get behind the kit for maybe 30 minutes before a guitarist would turn up. Then after that band that I was in fell apart, which is 12, 18 months, I joined another band that had their own place where I could keep my stuff set up 24/7, and that was a game changer because I could get in whenever I wanted. So I'd go down a couple of times a week, and we'd rehearse with the band a couple of times a week. So I was playing drums maybe 4 days a week away from my house as well. You know, it was a good 30-40 minute drive, so that's considerable in the UK, especially where people just don't leave their house unless they're going on holiday. That's I'm going to get in trouble for that, but it's also true. Yeah, that was huge, having the capacity to do that. And then eventually I had my own place, like a couple of bands later, and I was rehearsing. Mainly I was rehearsing with the band, if I'm honest, and I figured out these patterns pretty quickly in the sessions. But it was when I joined Tesseract that I really had to have access to a kit at home. Because the stuff that was in the bands previously, I was writing a lot of it, so I understood a lot of it. And there wasn't much just sitting behind a kit practice I needed to do, because I was maybe writing this stuff on a kit in a rehearsal anyway, and then going home and programming it, and it was a little bit more simple than the stuff I'm playing now. So it was always kind of within my abilities, let's say. And then when I joined Tesseract and suddenly there's a guitarist that's writing stuff that most drummers wouldn't even imagine, and yeah, then it's like, okay, I need to be able to practice at home. So I got a little electronic kit in a flat I was living in. I had a practice room not that far down the road from where 5 minutes down the road from where I lived, which was amazing. And when we had something coming up, a tour or a recording session or something, I'd get in the rehearsal room and just make sure I am prepared. And for each thing, it takes a different amount of time. And I wasn't equipped with really good tools to learn, if I'm honest, which maybe going to a music school or getting some lessons would have taught me that stuff. But I was just brute force. What do I need to do to learn this? Oh, repeat. And now it's much less stressful because I've got all the tools set up all the time in my house with this electronic kit, and I've got a screen in front of me to put whatever I'm learning on the screen. I listen to my body when I'm in these sessions and I'm learning, and it's I'm only ever going for 30-40 minutes at a time, and then because it's so complex trying to learn some of these things, you get mentally or physically fatigued. So at that point I stop. And rather than trying to push through and get an hour and a half session in a couple of times a week for the same amount of time invested over multiple days, if I split that into 4 days, I can retain a lot more of the patterns that I'm learning. And I know why this is, because of how memory works. You're recalling. Memory gets your memory of something gets stronger the more you recall it. So and if you rest in between the sessions as well, which we do because we typically are asleep from day to day, then it goes from like short-term memory to long-term memory. So you're recalling this thing and it's getting stronger and it's getting better. And I'll find that I can start a pattern on day one that I couldn't play at all, and then I'll get some of the way with it. I might get it up to like 70% of the desired tempo, and then on day 2 I'll start the pattern and I'll be able to play it past 70% tempo. I'm just like, I'm recalling this thing and it's from a place of better memory, and I can do it faster than I could even get to yesterday. What is going on there? Some magic. It's so good. Whereas if you just carried on in that first session, you might have just about got it up to that speed, but you might also not. You might have just got tired and annoyed, and you might have ended the session feeling like you didn't get as far ahead as you wanted to. So I've got better at listening to my body and my mind when I'm in practice sessions, and stopping when I'm getting tired.
There's 2 things there. Have you ever heard of the Pomodoro technique?
Oh, the 25. What is it? 25 minutes and then
take a break, basically. Because our brain stops working as effectively, or something along those lines. And there's another thing where we learn in our sleep. Like, we somehow solidify what we were learning that day overnight. Apparently,
it's moving from the hippocampus to the cortex. Hippocampus is your short-term memory and other things, and it's transferring to the cortex overnight. As long as you're in slow wave sleep, deep or REM sleep, that they're the stages in which that's happening. And so that's why sleep is so important, right? And I prioritize that, man. On tour and at home, I'm like, nope, sleep. And it just becomes a superpower the more you understand this stuff. When you're pairing it with the type of things that I'm pairing it with, which is getting better at the drums, it becomes a superpower. And it's taken a lifetime to understand that as well.
What sleep time do you aim to be in bed by?
I start wrapping up as long as I'm not really in a task, because this is the other thing that happens to me. I can be doing something and I'm in it, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm just leave me alone. I'll carry on, but I'll start wrapping up about 8:30, 9 p.m. latest, and then I'm in bed like 9:30. And on tour it's a little bit different. Because I'm up super early though. I'm a happy morning person. We get up for the animals and stuff out the back. As I said earlier, we got ducks and goats and things. They want to be out by about 7:30, 8, and I'm naturally awake by about 6:30. I'd say maybe 6 sometimes, and I've got more than 8 hours. I've got 8 hours sleep every single night, nice. At least, and. So it's not a pain to wake up at that time without an alarm as well. I haven't woken up to an alarm unless I've got a flight. I've got an alarm and I'll wake up about the same time every day. So,
That's good.
with the exception of last night, like I said earlier, for some reason I slept terribly last night. I must have been too warm. It was quite warm. The weather's changing here, and I woke up and I was just like, ugh, why am I awake? Must have been that midday coffee.
Yeah. Did they apparently for every hour of sleep before midnight, it counts as 2 hours as well.
I like that.
So, like, if you're getting to bed at 9:30, that's a good quality sleep.
Yeah, I'm screwed on tour then, because on tour, our entire schedule, like you wake up and are in the venue around midday, or at least me and Amos are, because we're setting up kits and doing stuff. And then you have the entire day, and then we're wrapping up and we're tired and in bed, and it's like, or for me, it's between like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., closer to 3 a.m. every day. So like 3 a.m. to 11 a.m., 12 p.m. every day. Such a weird schedule, and you don't really see any daylight. And
vampire life.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's easy to get messed up on tour, and then you come home and you're thrown back into a different routine, and it is bizarre. It is a bizarre lifestyle.
Plus the jet lag from travel if you're
Plus that
going around by plane.
I factor that into everything we do now, because we've done too many things that have been painful because no one's considered the routing of getting from place A to place B and playing a show, and just how it affects the body. And like last year we did this, we were playing some shows, we did a whole like pan Asia tour, like India and loads of places, and Australia and Japan and like Singapore. Wow. Like loads and loads of places. It was so awesome. But to get there, right, we started in India, and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, right, east coast of the US. My flights from this part of the world to get to that part of the world are typically red eyes. So I leave here about 11 p.m. I arrive in Heathrow, and it's, I don't know, late morning in the UK, something like that. There's then a 7-hour layover at Heathrow. There's then an 8 or 9 hour flight to India. And we arrive at 10:30 a.m. straight into rehearsal.
Oh, damn.
I've never felt so foggy in my life. That was... I had to set up a whole kit. We had to get all of the sounds. I'm like... what? I was well into like the end of day 3 by the end of that day. It was just so stupid. But yeah, those are the things you have to do sometimes if you want to be in a band.
Yeah, drink a lot of coffee.
Drink a lot of coffee. I don't know. I can't sleep on planes either. I try, and I just... No, I'm in the dark. It's too difficult. It's too painful.
Yeah, you just want your comfortable bed at home.
I really do. I just got a new mattress. Like for the first time in my life, I invested in like a fancy mattress a couple of months ago, and it arrived 2 days into the European tour when I was away for 6 weeks. I'm like, you're kidding me! You're absolutely kidding me.
Was it as good as what you expected when you came home?
I would say, I don't know yet. I think it's one of those things that my body will tell me in like 6 months. It's like, yeah, this was worth it. Because our other one wasn't uncomfortable. I was just like, everyone says good pair of shoes, good mattress. And the mattress we had was just like, when we moved to the US a few years ago, we just went on Amazon and got like the basic Amazon memory foam situation because we had no money. And we didn't want to sleep on the floor. So we got this new mattress through the week. It's one of those things you go on the website and you put in like whether you're a side sleeper, whether you're a back sleeper, whether you sleep hard, and it spits you out the one to buy. So I just bought that, and it is great. It is comfortable, but has it changed my life so far? No. So I don't know.
Maybe
ask me in 6 months.
Yeah. Next time you have to sleep in a hotel bed, that's going to be plane, you'll put it in good comparison.
Yeah, that's when I'm going to be able to tell. Sorry, my dogs are barking in the background. Let me just close the door.
That's all right. Okay, how are we going for time on your end?
Let me just check my calendar real quick. I'm okay for a bit actually.
Okay.
If we want to crack on for a few more questions.
Yeah, there are. That'd be great if you could. There's 3 other main questions, and then the questions from the other guys, which are going to be a bit quicker.
Okay.
But currently, what's your practice routine like?
Ooh. So I have different practice routines. When the first one is just organic practice, right? Which is I sit behind the kit with zero agenda and I allow myself to just move and play whatever comes into my mind, either along to music or a metronome. Nice. And I'm recording that on a million cameras because I've got them set up all the time for my drum lessons. And that ends up informing the next type of practice that I do, which is intentional practice, where I focus on something that I can't do well in one of those sessions. And this is only for 20, 30 minutes, and it's like 4 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week. And the things that you might have seen these, so I post these little weekly jams. There's like 2 things that I put up every week, and there's notation for them, and there's a guitar profile for them, and there's MIDI for them, and they go up on my website. And I clip those little videos from my jam sessions. So nice. I just turn up and jam and come up with ideas. And sometimes there's like 10 ideas from one of these sessions, and other times there's 2, and I just never know what's going to come out of it. So that's a good way for folks to see just some of the things that I'm working on, or some of the little brain farts that I have. But like I say, in those sessions, I've got cameras set up. And the other type of practice that I can do is where I'll just sit down, look at those videos over a coffee, and pull out the things where either I don't look comfortable, I don't sound comfortable, where something completely falls apart. And then with the modern tools that we've got these days, you can slow that stuff down and really see what it was. And then I can take the extra step, I could program that in to identify the pattern. I might have been going from a 3-stroke pattern into a 5-stroke pattern or something, just as an example, or a linear pattern, and it just wasn't clean. So what tempo was that at? And you start to diagnose this stuff and realize where you need a bit of work for yourself. And then that would be a type of intentional practice that I do, where I just focus on that thing to a metronome, basically. And then that's really the best way that I've identified to come up organically with what to practice next. And it's one of the things that I help my students get into a routine with, because it's like, yeah, it's a bit of work, but it also helps you always know what to practice. Like you're never kind of left wondering, what should I work on? And that way, going back to what you kindly said earlier, you end up sounding like you.
Yeah.
Then the other type of practice is when I'm trying to learn something that's been presented to me, or I've got a recording session coming up, some session work. I've got some session work I'm working on at the moment for a friend, doing it at the end of April. And for that, what I'll do is I'll get the track. If I've got to write it, I'll do a combination of sitting behind the drums and programming drums, depending on the ideas that I hear. And then once I've got the programmed drums, I'll go through and I'll highlight everything. I use like a traffic light system. If it's green, I can do it. If it's amber, I'm going to have to practice that a bit. If it's red, oh God, that's going to be horrendous. And I start with the red stuff. I go through and I'll just do it a couple of bars at a time, and I'll have the stuff up on the screen, the MIDI notes on the screen. And the good thing about that is, unlike music notation, where it's either static, a piece of paper, or you might be following it along in something like Guitar Pro, you've still got to have a good understanding of what all of the dots and what the language is.
Yeah.
Whereas viewing dots on a screen like MIDI is pretty obvious what it is, and it's all on a grid. It's you've got time, which is horizontal, and you've also got like moment in time, which is like a line, so you can see everything at a 16th note level, or whatever level you need to on this grid, and it very quickly becomes obvious which one connects to which limb. So I'll do that for new patterns that I'm practicing, or where something just seems completely out of reach with my current understanding and my current limb independence and all of that. I'll get those red ideas into the amber where I can kind of just about hash through them. And then my goal is to get all of those into the green before I've got to track the thing that I'm tracking. And it's always just a 20, 30, 40 minute session, depending on how complex it is and how tired I get. And I might do 2 a day. I might do a morning one and an evening one. But what I'll try and do is like a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So if I'm doing sessions, it'll be back-to-back days rather than, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Like I always try and bunch them together just to try and take advantage of that, you know, recalling it the next day phenomenon that I've witnessed where it seems to be better the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really my practice routines. Those are the 2 main ones. If I've identified a pattern or just a technique that I want to get better at, which is less and less these days. It used to be a bit more. Then it's short, regular sessions, like literally 10, 15 minutes doing the thing. If you're on tour, you can still keep doing this because you'll probably have a pad and you just need to set up somewhere with a pad.
Yeah.
And it's just about consciously identifying, you know, what are you doing? Is it single strokes? Is it double strokes? Is it a particular pattern? Is it flowing from pattern to pattern? Playing along to a metronome and really locking in with that metronome. Am I doing this in time? Is it clean? Does it feel comfortable? Like all of those things. And that'll be personal to everyone, but it's not much time that I spend doing that stuff. It's, you know, it's probably, like I say, 10, 15 minutes. But I'm not doing that kind of practice at the moment, for example, because there's nothing really that I'm like, oh yeah, I'd like to get that faster. Because it's also for me the most boring type of practice. It's kind of like the homework of drumming.
Yeah. Does I'm guessing that's the same process for learning Tesseract parts, but what about the writing side when it comes to Tesseract? Yeah. What's that like for you?
Yeah. So Ackle, the guitarist, predominantly presents something that sounds pretty much finished. He always has. So he'll send a demo through and it's like, wow, okay, I've got to learn these drums now. So I'll follow the process that, yeah, I'll start out by listening because a lot of it, you know, with repeated listens, you do kind of understand the timing of a lot of it and how it flows. And then there'll be moments in there where I'll need to really understand specifics. So that's where I'll get the idea, I'll get it up in Cubase, I'll program the bits in that I don't understand. Just by listening to it, I'll just go through and just drop kicks there, because Ackle's program drums will probably look different to how I want to see them for learning. And rather than stripping back his thing, I'd write, it's faster for me. I can do it in 20 minutes or less. It's not very long. So yeah, I'll get it into my computer. I'll do the traffic light thing, but then the other way that we write is we allow a bit of space for kind of just organic creativity. So when we were in the studio doing the last record, there were whole sections that just weren't finished. They were there was like a demo idea, and outside of that, there was nothing. So we just would play over an old Tesseract song, for example, but play different drums. And then this is like Legion. This is a great example of that song, Legion. So 4th track on War of Being. Probably my favourite track on the record other than War of Being, and that was mostly a jam. The first chunk of it up to the heavy chorus was written, but none of us had practiced it because we didn't think it was going to be on the record. And then the second half of it was the old demo went into a song called Mirror Image, which is off of Sonder, the album 4. So I just played different drums over Mirror Image and a bunch of different things, and the producer chopped it up, and then he looked at me and Amos, who were in the studio. He's like, oh, who can play piano best out of you two? And we're like, well, neither of us. But I just sat at the piano and kind of went dunk, 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 dunk. And there's a little piano ditty in the background that you can kind of hear going ding, 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 just playing this thing. And then we give that to Kat, who was the vocal producer working with Dan, and she writes a load of stuff. And I think her and Dan write a load of stuff. Then it comes back to Ackle and Amos, and they do a load of stuff. So when we're in the studio and we've got time, there's a different kind of collaboration that happens. When we're each at home, it's just a Google Dropbox situation, and ideas get uploaded, and there's always a load of ideas in there. And we just aim now to have a load of ideas before we go into a studio, so that some things are fully fleshed out and we've practiced them, and other things are seeds, and we'll see where they go in the studio.
Okay. And from like Ackle's drafted drum parts, do you often like expand upon those? Do you put your own spin on it? What's that part like?
Yeah, Ackle, I mean, he's a genius as far as I'm concerned. I'll never say that to him. But,
we'll mute that.
Yeah, he's a beep. He's got such a unique mind, really, for writing this stuff. I don't know where he pulls it from. The rest of us could be a band and it would sound completely different without going through him. He's like the filter that makes it sound like Tesseract. So, remind me the question again, sorry. What?
So if you're presented with a song and there's a drum idea in there, or even just a snippet, how do you go about putting your own uniqueness?
Yes. Okay. So he's always said this to me. What he's put down is like the blueprint, and it's like, oh no, like do your thing. Do your thing there. I'm like, oh, but that ghost note pattern sounds so good. He's like, yeah, do your thing. What about that, Phil? Do your thing. So I always thought he'd be quite precious over exactly what he'd written. And to a degree, there's, kick drum patterns that lock in with specific ostinatos. Yes, that stuff's got to get locked in. But within that, there's huge scope for navigating things differently, whether that's just literally how I phrase grooves, like where the ghost notes are going to go, the fills that I choose to put in. I'll base my original ideas are getting as close as I can to his original idea, because in doing that I unlock something that I couldn't do before. Every time there's a pattern that I have to learn to play a fill the way that he's programmed it that isn't in my vocabulary yet, that I can add to my vocabulary. And it's very rare that there's something that he's written that is like impossible to play, as in that you can't hit three things with your arm at the same time kind of thing. So there's not much of that happens. But yeah, I can change things up, and especially the longer we play songs, the more they become my version of it.
Yeah,
it definitely starts out as Ackle's vision, and then by the time we're playing it live, it's getting, I feel as though I'm beginning to own it. And then a year or two into playing it live many times, it's very much like, I don't know, I feel like I've done a lot to it. Like Nocturne, for example, I didn't write the drums to that, but if you listen to the original drums and what it is now, it's two very different things. And I wouldn't have got to where I am now if I didn't have those ideas as an amazing starting point. It's really inspiring to get given ideas like that. And it's not just Ackle in the band that can write that stuff. Amos is amazing as well. Amos will come up with ideas because he was a drummer. He'll come up with ideas that are completely different to where I hear things. And that they almost sound, a lot of them, they're like modulated. He tends to put things in, and there'll be like a different ostinato, a different pattern that's happening with the right hand on another part of the kit. Like the ride is keeping a pattern, and I'm like, man, no drummer would just organically do that because it's so mathematically complex. But in learning to do something like that, you unlock some amazing things.
I could imagine. Was there anything really pivotal or, I guess, transformative in the ideas that have come through to you that have made the biggest change in your playing? Or at least, helped level you up a bit?
Honestly, I mean, with every song, there's something that I feel like levels me up. It's difficult to pinpoint specific things in Tesseract songs because it all just feels like a constant evolution, honestly. Every single song And I tend to push back on a song if there's not something in it that challenges me. Echoes from the last record, I wasn't bothered about that for the longest time because it was just like I could just do everything as soon as I heard the song. I'm like, that's just green all the way through. There's nothing in that I can't do.
Nice.
And it was nice in a way, but it was also like I wasn't excited to play it. I left it until the last moment in the studio to record because I'm like, well, I'm just going to smash through this in like 2 attempts, and did.
Wow.
But it's not as technically complex as the other ones. There's nothing in it mathematically that's like impossible, where versus parts of War of Being and parts of Sacrifice and parts of Legion and parts of the other songs were just like, oh man, they're very red. They're very, very difficult. But there are some patterns that have transformed and techniques that I feel like once I understood, my playing jumped to a new level. Like 5-stroke patterns, for example, understanding, because it's the first number after 3 which everyone's doing as a drummer anyway. Everyone's playing like little patterns that are 3 notes long, but 5, well, that's one more than 4, and that sounds weird. But understanding how the relationship between a 5 and a 4, basically an odd and an even number. And as soon as you realise, like, put a 5 and make it 16th notes and play it to a quarter note. Get a 7 and put it as 16th notes and play it to a quarter note. Get a 9 and put it as 16th notes and play it to a quarter note. And accent the same place each time and start to feel what that is. That relationship between the quarter note and the accent is a polyrhythm.
Yeah.
And you can hear and feel either of those as the pulse. And that's modulation. And you're also playing some kind of strange repeating ostinato. So a 5 for me is going to be like right, left, right, left, or right, left, left. Anything where there's a double stroke on the left and 3 singles, and you can voice that so interestingly around the kit. Mm-hmm. Heel toe technique as well. That was one that once it dropped was like, that's good. We're able to do a double stroke with 1 foot. And I utilize that a lot, especially for more complex kick drum patterns, such as War of Being, the hectic Herter section in that song. Mm-hmm. I'm relying on heel toe technique for that to make it efficient, because I had that idea at home. That was something I actually wrote, that crazy section at the third time
nice.
that pattern repeats. And I had this idea at home. We'd never programmed it as a demo, but I said to the guys, I want to make this last version of it hectic, and I've got an idea. And it's just to put a herter at the beginning of each repeating number through this pattern. Okay. And the pattern, it was 4 4 6 7. So 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and then it repeats. So if there's a herter, keep going. Couldn't play it though. It was stupid. But heel toe with a left in between, so right, left, right, but the 2 rights that you're doing, it's just one motion, so you're just bringing your foot down once and gravity's doing the work. Mm-hmm. Realizing how to get that nice and clean was the game changer, really. And to do that, I was basically playing along to Bleed by Meshuggah. That's the practice for getting that, just doing that on repeat and getting herters up to that level of cleanliness. It's very difficult to play Bleed. I wouldn't say that I could do that all the way through, but that then becomes a stamina exercise. But that's a really good pattern to unlock for your feet. They also turn into useful little patterns at the start of drum fills. There's little 3-stroke patterns, linear patterns that I use, which are just right left kick and left right kick. I'll throw those into fills all the time. Super simple. It's super simple. It's just how you voice it and how you apply it. 6-stroke roll was the first one that I realized, you can get things really fast on the drums. And right left left, or left right left right, whatever it is. When you realize there's kind of 2 maximum tempos with any of these patterns, and the first one is when you understand the pattern, but the double strokes in it are actually 2 single strokes still. And then there's the really fast version of it when you realize, oh, that right is a double stroke, and I have to relax and play a double stroke for that moment, and you have to kind of send a different signal to your arms to do that thing, and then all of a sudden it jumps up in tempo. And I realized that with the 6-stroke roll first, and then the trick is to try and get that kind of thing to happen to other patterns that other rudiments. But yeah, that was a bit of an understanding jump as well. So yeah, really, there's just these moments, and I suppose one more would be understanding how to keep the left leg counting that quarter note or eighth note pulse, and that's really a technique. It's like a tiptoe bounce where my heel is keeping an eighth note count, even if audibly all you can hear is a quarter note count, because the motion of it, I'll just lift my foot up on an eighth or on a quarter, and it's the same motion I'm doing for either. And it might have looked like I had a nervous tick when I was practicing that on the train, listening along to Meshuggah back in the days. But really, it's just about practicing repeat motion, doing it enough times for that not to become tiring. And it doesn't ever tire me out doing that. It's a really effortless motion.
I did notice that in a lot of your drum videos, like you always got that left. I mean, not always, but the left foot is very dominant on the hi-hat pedal as well.
Yeah, I love it. It adds another dimension in, and for me, if I'm not doing that, it throws me out of time. You would think that the extra limb would create more complexity, but over most of what I play, it helps me stay in time, and it sounds right as well. Like if I'm not doing it, it sounds wrong. The only time I stop is if I've got a particularly gnarly fill where I need to practice it more to be able to play it with pedal hat. There's some fills I'm like, this is cleaner live if I stop doing pedal hat, and I'll do 2 pedals for any footwork that's in it. But yeah, for the most part, I'm doing pedal hat through pretty much everything.
Yeah, like you said, helps with timing. I feel I don't do it that much, but when I can pull it off myself, it feels like it's like you're locking into the grid almost.
Yeah, exactly that. It becomes the metronome, and the reason it's, even if your metronome is just a quarter note, so you got that going on, by putting in the eighth note pulse, you got you're creating a subdivision which removes some of the guesswork around that timing. So especially at slower tempos, you try doing a quarter note count at a slow tempo that's a full kind of leg movement rather than an ankle movement, and it's very hard to control because you're having to manually raise your hip or raise your leg from the hip and drop it down, rather than this organic, tiptoe bounce, which has got kind of a natural, I don't know what speed actually, I couldn't tell you the exact tempo, but there's a tempo at which feels good and feels comfortable. And if you're just trying to do quarter notes below that tempo, it's going to feel, and it's same with double kick. At a slower tempo, it's dreadful. Yeah. And then it starts to get, oh, okay, now it sounds good, and then it gets to the upper limits, and it starts to sound terrible again. So, yeah, really discovering the point at which it just becomes a kind of an ankle roll, where you're rolling from the heel to the tiptoe, versus keeping that eighth note pulse all the time, even if you're just hearing and playing a quarter note. I've got a lesson actually that's on my website that's free that people can check out about that. It's like a 6-minute lesson, and I just show people the technique that I use.
Well, on that note, before we go into the other drumming podcast guests' questions, was there anything you wanted to talk about in terms of what you're offering people? Like, you've got the mentorship stuff, and of course the drum lessons, and you've got an amazing blog as well with some really good, wisdom there that a lot of young drummers, or any drummer really, should be keeping tabs on.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. So, yeah, I mean, there's the blog. It's a Substack that I have. I don't know the URL, but if you type in Jay Postones on Substack, it will come up, or go to my profile on any of the socials, and I'm sure it'll pop up. I write something every single week. That's my thing. I love writing. I carve out time for it most mornings, and I've always got something to write about because I'm always listening to things that interest me and trying to figure things out, and I have insights. And sometimes it'll be I'll write about something on tour. Other times I'll write about something that I've unlocked in a practice session. I might write about something that's irking me. Like it's anything, but every single time I'm trying to give away something that's an insight that's free. You know, there's no cost applied to it. And yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy it, which is why I do it. I think some of it is therapy for me, and then if it helps other people, that's brilliant. And then yes, there's drum lessons. jaypostones.com. If you head there, there's a couple of different options. So what I like to do with people that are actually interested in working with me is understand more about the situation they're in, because it's not a kind of one size fits all situation for everyone. People are at different points on their journey, but the most popular option that I have is it's called the Progressive Drumming Masterclass, which is an online course predominantly. It's the collection of the best lessons that I've made and continue to make. I update it all the time. It's a monthly or annual membership for that. There's a wonderful community that's a part of it in Discord, and in there I offer feedback, and we're always talking about things. There's drum gear chats and drum technology chats, and just feedback on performances. And I'm doing this, and it's kind of got to the point now where there's so many students in there that are active, and someone will post something asking for feedback or advice, and the other students are jumping in before I can even say anything and giving people which is amazing. It's so good. But we have biannual student competitions as well, where people win prizes. The last prize was a DW stainless steel collector's snare, one of my snares. Wow. The next one that's coming up in June is a DW 9000 pedal, but the configuration that I use with the fancy beaters. Always trying to think of nice things to give away, because it's a little turns it into a game, right? When you've got something to aim towards that's a literal prize, as well as just getting better at the drums, I think it helps people get there. And that's open for all my masterclass students as well. My people who are working through the masterclass can also book one-on-ones with me, which is where the mentorship comes in. And I just charge hourly for those when people want to book them, and that's all pay as you go. And then for people who are just looking for a bit of inspiration every month or every week, as I mentioned earlier, there's the jams that I upload, which are just little snippets into the type of things that I'm working on. I get all of these transcribed. You can play along with these in the browser on the website. You can slow them down on the website with the notation all synced to it and everything. There's 2 of those every week, and I record a lot of them and schedule them into the future, so there's always new things being posted. I think we scheduled up through April so far, and it's the start. It's mid-March now. So yeah, those are like the 3 options that I have for people, and I just encourage people, just reach out to me on any of the socials or head to jaypostones.com, fill out the student application form on there if you're unsure which is the best thing for you. If people are interested in working with me one-on-one or working through the masterclass, I offer a call. If people want to get on a call with me and chat, we can get on a call for 30 minutes, talk about your goals, really lock down what it is you want to do. And the goal for all of my students is that in that first month, right, because this is what's typically happened. Most people haven't made much progress in quite a long time. So they come to me because you hit a plateau, right? If you're just a little bit stuck. So many people have a box, like the things you're struggling with, and pretty much everyone ticks the box that they've hit a plateau and they don't have a good practice routine. Well, in the first week, we'll sort out your practice routine, and by this time next month, you'll be well and truly off the plateau, and you'll know exactly what you're doing. And that's like my guarantee to everyone. And if that hasn't happened, I've not done what I've promised. So if that sounds good, drop me a message and we will talk.
I will be as well. I just need to... I'm working a bit too much at the moment, and I've neglected practice entirely. So once
a lot of people are in that situation, mate. Honestly, that's what I'm saying about responsibilities. Get to a point where it starts to creep in and take over, and then the thing that you want to do takes a back seat. But just we can now start by making it easy. Like in fact, I mean, right now, what if you're looking at an average week for yourself? What are the things that are getting in the way?
Honestly, Monday to Thursday, I work about 8:30. Well, I don't start work at 8:30, but I'm out the door around 8:30, and I don't get home until 8:30 p.m. Sometimes 9
Ooh.
p.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that goes Monday through to Thursday. Friday, I do get a little bit of practice in, but I have like a morning student and then a few afternoon students. So it's a bit of an interrupted day.
Yeah.
And Saturday, I also teach from about 9:30 till 4 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Okay.
need to cut.
So you've got,
I definitely need to cut down.
you've got a stacked schedule. What I'd say, as hard as it is, there's always a way to make it work. And even so, those days where you've got really busy schedule, right, where it's like an all-day situation, when you get back, have you got any bandwidth for 15 minutes?
Yes, but the last couple of weeks I've been having to do like invoicing when I get home and timetabling for the schools I work at.
Yeah.
But now I've just finished the bulk of it. So now I've started to come home. I hop on the practice pad for at least, and I'm also working out of this book. Oops. It's a drum and bass book. So
Okay. Oh, sick.
Nothing to do with prog or any of the stuff I really love, but it's still cool.
Well, this is what I'm getting to. So if you know ahead of time the thing that you're doing, and you've got a goal, because being specific is the thing, right? Life, it rewards the specific, asks and punishes the vague wish. That's a little quote that I have in my brain all the time, and it's so true. And if you know what it is that you want to be able to play, you can chip away at that every time you sat down. And when you've got 10, 15, 20 minutes of bandwidth, even if it is at the end of one of these hectic days, it could turn into actually a fun thing that you do every day, rather than which I imagine it would be, because it's drumming. You get it's physical, and yes, it can be a bit taxing on your mind, but it can also be meditation.
Definitely.
So I would look at a couple of those days a week, let's say 3 of those days or 2 of those days, where you can get back from work, do whatever you need to do, and then have 15-20 minutes where you're just focused on this thing, and then step away. And then when you got a little bit more bandwidth, perhaps at the weekend, maybe you could do another 2 sessions that are slightly longer, more like 40-minute sessions focused on that thing. And just make it as easy as you possibly can within your schedule, because the hardest thing is that, if you've got access to a kit at home, if you can play at home, then you're set. If you have to go somewhere else, it's more difficult. That's just how it is. But that's really where I'd encourage you to have a little look, and just to really scrutinize the things that you want to learn, that are excited to learn the most, because that helps you not sit down at the pad and go, oh, what am I doing? But if you got that book, that's also great.
Yeah, I think for me, a well-rounded practice session or jam session is like do a bit of pad work out of a book for a little bit, and then work on any upcoming recordings or drum playthroughs. But at the moment, it's just been the pad stuff and a bit of the book. But I'll definitely take on that advice, and also just for my own well-being, I cut down on work somewhere.
Yeah, you've got a stacked schedule there, my friend. That's a lot. And it just gets, like I say, it gets difficult. The older you get, the more responsibilities you get. People need to make money. People need to eat. People need to exist. It can become imbalanced though if you're not careful. But I'm also saying this from a point where drumming is the thing that I do, so I can make it a priority, which I appreciate is a huge privilege. But I've also worked my arse off to get to that point. So there's a little bit of that as well. But yeah, man, if you want to talk about any of that stuff in more detail, just drop me a message and we can.
I will. And how do you prefer contact, by the way, in general? Email or social
Email's
media?
good. I'm the only social media that I'm really on. I should be on all of them because you should these days, but it's mentally exhausting trying to.
Yep.
I tried to do TikTok recently, and I just didn't download it on my phone because I know that it would become a soul suck for me. So whenever I post on there, I just do it on my Windows in the browser. But Instagram, I see most messages on there. I don't really go on Facebook, but I open up Meta Business Suite every now and then. So if you've messaged me on Facebook, I might see it. But email, if you go to my website, it's drum. Oh, it's such a long email address. So if you just go to my website, that's probably the easiest way to contact me. Or Instagram, that's another good way to contact me. Either of those are great.
Okay, awesome. I'll be hitting you up on either of those in the near future.
Cool.
Are you good to go into the other guy's questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I just need to open up my Word doc. Okay. So first one from Anup. It's not really a question, but he just asked me to bring up all the animals: goats, ducks.
Yeah, I know Anup. He's a legend. We toured together a long time ago, and yeah, man, I love him. Yeah, the animals. I have a lot of animals. We started out with a dog in the UK, and that turned into 2 dogs, and then we brought them to the US with us. And then when we were living in Austin for a while, we decided that a couple of ducks would be cool. And then when we moved to Charlotte, where I am now, we've got quite a bit of space, and we decided a load more ducks would be cool, and a couple of rabbits would be cool, and a couple of goats would be cool. So we've got 9 ducks, 2 rabbits, 2 dogs, and 2 goats, and everyone's got a name. I'm going to struggle to recall them all, but the goats have probably got the coolest. The goats and the dogs have got the coolest names. The dogs, we've got Murph and we've got Eddie. We've accidentally ended up with Eddie Murphy.
I was gonna say
Murph came first, and Eddie, we'd been to like this museum and there's a load of Thomas Edison stuff. We thought, oh, Edison is a good name, but we shortened it to Eddie, and then we're like, hang on a minute, it's Eddie Murphy. The goats, it's Ripley and Newt, which is from Aliens, which I absolutely love. It's my favourite movie. So yeah, Ripley and Newt are the goats. And then the ducks have just got hilarious names. I can never remember them all. We did a Tesseract event the other day, like this cinema VIP thing, and someone asked me what all the ducks' names were, and I was there at the front of this cinema in front of like 150 odd people trying to remember all the names of my ducks, and I couldn't do it. So I'm sorry, ducks, but Shrimp, that's a good one. We've got Shrimp and Babs. Babs' full name is Barbara Streisand. That's a good one.
I did see a goat earlier in the window behind you. So I'll probably put like an Easter egg hunt
for the goats.
Yeah, for this when this video gets uploaded. Who can spot the goat?
When I record lessons, I have a teleprompter just up here, and I have the curtains open behind me sometimes, and you can just see this soft focus goat walk across the background. It's so good.
What are the bunnies' names? Because my wife and I have 6.
6? Wow. We got Pinto and Pesto.
Oh, that's cool. Are they the uppity-eared buns or lop ears?
Uppity. They can they go both ways, but mostly they're up. They don't like cuddles. They like having a little head scratch and a little stroke, but if you try and pick them up, they're like, pew, and they're gone. Yeah.
It's hard to find a bunny who loves the cuddles. Usually when they're older, they get into it a bit more. Yeah.
Same as the ducks. The ducks don't want you to cuddle them. They're like, what are you doing, human? Why are you picking me up? Why am I off the ground and not flapping? Yeah, they want... If you've got some food, they'll rush over to you and they'll eat out your hand, and you can pick them up and stuff, but they just want to be fed and to forage and to be left alone otherwise.
Are there any other animals you want to add to the family?
I don't think so. I think we're at capacity. It's like if it was up to my wife, there'd be a goose and there'd be a donkey.
Oh wow!
But we have neighbours, so both of those are incredibly loud.
Well, that's awesome. I'd love to, have that sort of setup at some point. Animals are just the best.
Animals are the best. It's surprisingly, I don't know, it's a nice morning routine to get up to. Like, I get up, I go outside, dogs are running around being idiots, and then the goats all like come running over. The goats and the ducks all sleep in this barn thing that we've got, and everyone is ready to come out in the morning, and they run out, and the goats are jumping around and they want food, and the ducks are pecking around at your feet and they want food, and it's just a nice way to start the day.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so Nic Pettersen's question. He messaged me saying he's seen that you have an amazing e-kit setup, and he wants to ask you, how close are modern electric kits to replicating acoustic kits, and what areas still need improvement, if any?
Yeah. So I've only got experience on this one. I get messages from people saying, hey man, I've got $1,000 to spend on an e-kit. What do you recommend? I have no idea. I've got a Roland TD50KV, which is was the flagship Roland kit when I got it, and I got a nice deal through Roland. They were very helpful to me, which was nice. For the longest time, I told myself that people wouldn't take anything I do seriously if it was on an electric kit. It was a story I was telling myself that wasn't true. I thought these things were inferior drum kits, and they are not. They are very, 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 very good. There is a difference in feel when you go between one of these kits and an acoustic kit, but it's not so much that it's jarring. So, for example, through COVID, I only had access to this kit. And in the US now, I never play my acoustic kit before I do anything. It's all Practise on the electric kit. So 2 years, I only play the electric kit. And then Tesseract have got a kind of a comeback tour after COVID with, what's the band called? Bullet for My Valentine in the UK in small arenas, right? So there's a few thousand people every single night. I haven't played drums really in 2 years I haven't played acoustic drums in 2 years, and I'm bricking myself going from this into one rehearsal with the band, sitting at an acoustic kit for a day and then going into arenas. But it was fine. It was totally fine. I was practicing more on this because it was convenient than I ever did on an acoustic kit, and then therefore my techniques got better, my limb independence got better. It just takes, a couple of minutes on an acoustic kit and you're back and you're riding at full speed. So you have to play into an acoustic kit a little bit more. The thing that feels the most different is the hi-hat and the pedal hat. So the bouncing around the toms and things feels pretty good, especially the mesh heads. The kick drum feels pretty good. It's a little tighter than my actual kick drum would be in real life, but it's not bad. Most of the cymbals, the motion I'm doing is the exact same. It doesn't kind of react like a cymbal would, it doesn't sway, but it's mostly the same thing. The hi-hats, there's so many articulations with a hi-hat. You've got the tip and you've got the bow of the stick. You've got all these different variants of open. You've got the pedal hat and all of that. And because of all of that, there's a lot of information for it to process, and it doesn't always get it right. So even I've got the digital Roland hats, and they're like the best of the best of the best, and they are good, but it's still not a hi-hat. There's still a lot of cleaning up of MIDI that I have to do when I'm editing stuff. So that's the thing I think that needs the most work. I don't know that it's going to even be possible to get that right. I don't know what has to happen, because it's obviously it's very dialed in at this point, but it's not quite there.
From the way I see it is on an acoustic kit, it feels like the sound possibilities are infinite. But when you go to the electronic hi-hat, you still have parameters that you're working with, or signals. It's
signals. It's the CC, the MIDI notes and things that end up kind of confusing things. And you can. I spent such a long time dialing it all in, and I found that the pedal hat stuff, depending on how hard I'm playing, will trigger as though I'm hitting it. And I've really dialed this stuff in, and it still does that. So, but like I say, it's one of the trade-offs of having the ability to play this kind of thing at home and practice this way, and even write this way. You know, I can do session stuff from home, and it sounds amazing. I just need to edit it a little bit. So what it's proved though is that, or proven, which one of those words is true or right, I don't know, is that these things are more than capable these days of replacing, especially for practice, of replacing an acoustic kit at home, because then you don't have to soundproof a room. As long as you've got access to an acoustic kit, if you're going to go and then play live shows and stuff, then you're good.
Yeah. And sorry, I'm just looking for Derrick's question. I had it in my notepad. Not sure where it's gone. One sec. Okay, so with Derrick, he said, how do you make your cymbal choices for playing on different tracks, and what are your favorite hi-hats? This was in the context of the Sacrifice drum playthrough.
Cymbal choice. So I always thought I knew what I wanted until I moved to Meinl, and then they opened the treasure chests, and I was like, oh my days. So I like really thin cymbals. I like really, really thin cymbals. And when we went into the studio to do the last record, Meinl, sorry, I just dropped a pen and it exploded everywhere.
Oh no.
Meinl, no, it's all right. Like the spring just flew off and I don't know where it's gone. Meinl kindly bought down all of the stock that hadn't sold from like a trade show. So I had literally a giant box of cymbals, and I got to try all these things on the recording. And the surprise to me was I'd always played with like a 20-inch crash, an 18 and a 16. And the surprise was we threw up a 22, which was comically large for me. This is a stupidly big cymbal. It's bigger than the Ride. Like, come on. And then I started playing it. I'm like, oh man, that's so flipping nice. It's the Byzance 22-inch vintage crash, I think is what it is. Man, I'm terrible with the names of cymbals. I really am. I can't remember them all. But if you go on YouTube and type in Meinl setup Jay Postones, I did a video with Meinl where I talk through all of the cymbals and I get all of the names of them correct. So
nice.
There we go. So thin cymbals I absolutely adore. The vintage ones, the ones that look kind of sanded, those ones are great. The ones that have that look like they've just been dug up out of the ground, again, the dry cymbals, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I wouldn't have thought they would produce the sound that I want, but for what we do and the speed of decay that we want in like fast crashes especially, they just sound brilliant, and they break less, which again you'd think, really? Thin cymbals break less? They're more flexible.
Yeah.
And with the technique that I've got, which is kind of like a figure of 8 motion on the crashes, I'm not coming straight down and slamming them, like hitting through them. I'm kind of swishing them. And the same with the China. I've got the same kind of traditional China. It's the Equilibrium one, that Matt Garska's signature one. Wonderful China. And it's lasted me 4 years. And I've never had a cymbal, especially a China, last me that long in my career. So either there's some magic sauce that's going into what Meinl are doing, or there's technique improvement from me, or both. But going back to the hi-hats thing, I've got 2 pairs of hats. The Foundry Reserve 15s, which are Byzance. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And then I've got the 15... I'm going to butcher the model, but it's the medium thin dry, I think. It's medium thin dry hats. Both of them are 15 inches. Both of them sound great. I couldn't choose between them in the studio, so I had both. And it was in the studio where I realised I wanted to have 2 sets of hats, because I started to realise that I play groovier if I'm playing on my right-hand side. And therefore I wanted a pair of hats on my right hand side rather than crossing over my hands, because what tends to happen is I can either have the hi-hats way up there in the air and therefore be able to bring my hand up as high as I want for really heavy rim shots, which is pretty much every Tesseract snare accent. I couldn't do that well when my hands are crossed over. I've got a limited amount of space, so I'm having to force my hand down, which creates mistakes. So I opened it up instead, and I'm playing so much more comfortably with a pair of hats. So I have the Foundry Reserves over on my right hand side as like auxiliary hats, and then the dry 15-inch extra out of the ground hats. I'm sorry, Meinl, I forgot what they are. They're beautiful though on my left hand side, and they're mainly pedal hat, and then there's a couple of grooves which I'm having to do like open close fizzy hats in Tesseract songs where I'll use those. But yeah, like I say, it just takes a while to experiment with different cymbals to realize what it is that you enjoy using. If you're used to just using thick cymbals and like tying them down, just if you have the capacity to do this, get yourself a thin cymbal, get yourself a bigger thin cymbal and let it swing. Like, don't tighten that thing all the way down, let it move on the, you know, on its axis on the cymbal stand, and see about the old figure of eight, the left and the right thing. That is a game changer for me. I learned to do that by accident on this kit, even though it doesn't really matter on this kit. It enables you to bounce from cymbal to cymbal. It creates us another count. You've kind of got a 1 and 2 and going backwards and forwards. And I don't know, I just find it easier. I'm completely unblistered all the time with that technique, rather than this, where you're hitting down and forcing up, and there's so much unnecessary force on every single joint, and you end up with blisters. And yeah, that's the biggest technique improvement actually I've made, and I'm attributing that to playing more delicious cymbals.
Well, there you go. Get your Meinl cymbals, everyone.
Yeah, go and pick them up. They are great, honestly. I mean, I had a good relationship with Sabian before, but I was very interested in Meinl, and the support has been incredible. Like, absolutely incredible. I love everyone that I'm working with, and yeah, they're sticks as well. Meinl sticks, go and check them out. I've played just about every stick imaginable under the sun, and the Meinl ones, I'm not just saying this, they're the only stick company where I can just have a bag of sticks that are all the same size, and I can pick any two out. And I'm not like, oh, this is the snare one and this is the, you know, this is left and right, versus every other one where one of them's a bit heavier, and it therefore is probably going to be the snare stick. Maybe that's just a me freak thing, but I'm pretty sure that's a thing for a lot of drummers. Meinl's very, very consistent with sticks.
What stick size do you use?
I use at the moment, a power, what is it? It's a extra long 5A. Can I ask something that can be cut out if necessary?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I've got a signature stick coming out like imminently.
Oh, wow.
So I can answer that there's a signature stick, or I can answer that there's the one that I'm actually using. So I'll say both, and depending on when this goes out, you can chop in the one. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Also, is there anything you want to talk about regarding the signature stick? And obviously it won't get released until you want me to release it. If you want to talk about it now, then it's a good opportunity, I guess.
All right. Well, I'll say the other stick first, and then I'll say the bit about the signature stick. So I'm using the standard long 5A with Meinl. I've tried everything. I was a 5B guy. I went down to a 3A. I went down to a 5A ultimately, because I was recognizing I had pain in my hands, not just blisters, but I was getting like tendon issues to the point where I couldn't even lift a teacup and put any pressure on my middle finger. Oh, damn. So I was having to play through tours in quite a lot of pain, and reducing stick size and a couple of exercises got me through that, which was fantastic. So yeah, standard long 5A, absolutely amazing. Cut! And then so I've got a signature stick with Meinl, which is very new. At least at the time of recording this, it's very, very new. It's a take on the standard long 5A. So we took that as a starting point because it felt perfect, and the weight was right, the length was right. The tip on the standard long 5A was not what I would have chosen if I had a choice. So I spoke to mine and I said, look, can we play around with this and see if we can get something closer to what I actually want? And that led down another rabbit hole. And over the past 9 months or so, we've kind of dialed it in, where we changed the taper, so the amount of material that's left before getting to more of like a barrel-shaped tip, kind of like a P barrel shape. And between the last 4 variants of it, I think it was version 4, 5, and 6, you got to get these things under a microscope. It's barely visible, the difference. But when I was blind testing, my wife was in here and I was blind testing between all the different sticks, I kept on choosing the same pair. So we really had dialed this thing into a point where the way that I play, the way that I naturally play, like every ghost note was nice and pronounced. The snare accents were super pronounced. It's just, I mean, it's a customized signature stick, and it's designed exactly for the way that I currently play. So, like I say, based on a standard long 5/8, it's longer than, it's about as long as you'll make a drumstick. I think 16.5 inches. It's perfectly balanced. I'm describing it as the perfect stick, like the perfect drumstick exists. If you're a 5A person, or even honestly, if you're playing a heavier stick, try these out, because if you're playing heavier and maybe you're finding that you don't have as much control, with a longer stick, it can sink into your hand a little further and you can still get that power because you have more torque. There's more material being thrown, right? Which is my trick. So when I'm playing light, the stick can travel a bit further back into my hand, and there's a bit of stick poking out the back. I've got more control. And then when I'm just hitting hard, stick disappears, and sometimes the butt of the stick will be in my palm, like it'll be around about my pinky finger, but I'm getting a hell of a lot of weight there to throw into the snare and make really big accents. So yeah, give them a try.
That's amazing. And like you said that there were about 6 versions, so I'm guessing the changes between each version, were they subtle?
Oh yeah. So the first, we had 2 versions to begin with. I drew out like the shape that I wanted the tip to be, and I gave them like some examples of other sticks I'd used in the past, and they were like, yeah, we can do that. So they made something that was approximately that size. But there was one that they sent me that was let's say a healthy garden pea size. It was quite big. And then another one that was either a fifth or a quarter smaller, into like a ratio smaller. That was too small, and the original one was too big. I tried playing both, and I'm like, there's not enough weight on the smaller one. I can feel it immediately. It was just like, it was too airy. The big one though was unruly. It was just this. It was like wielding a flipping sword. It was insane. And the rim shots and stuff were explosive, but it was very difficult to control the dynamic stuff, the lowest, ghost notes and things. All of those were a bit too monstrous. So I said, look, great starting point. We need somewhere in the middle. And they spat out a version 3 and 4, which were a better size on the tip. And then the taper was just different. So we agreed like a size in between these two. The taper going to that, so how much material we're leaving up to it, that's what we changed. And I didn't feel like either of those were quite right. There was too much weight in one, not quite enough weight in another. And I'm like, let's dial this in one more time. And it was version 6. There was a version 5 and 6 where it was such a subtle change. It's like how much the lathe is taking off the stick at this point. But it makes a difference. It makes such a huge difference. And to be able to do that process, like go through that process and really dial something in. The standard long 5A was 98% of the way there, really. I just did the entire, I've done the last tour, even though I've been playing my stick, I didn't have my sticks ready for this tour, so I just ordered a bunch of the standalone 5As, and the tour was absolutely fine. But it's the 1 and 2% with everything, with equipment and all of these things that make the difference accumulatively, and this is one of those things.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's like amazing to be able to work on your own signature stick. What I guess an honor as well, and a privilege.
Bucket list item for sure.
Yeah,
it's one of those things that, you know, everyone else that I've worked with, I've asked them, can you print my signature on an existing stick, because it's cool, right?
Yeah,
and they do it. They charge you for it, and they do it. But with mine, I didn't just want to do that, and I said, look, can we make one? And they were so supportive with the symbols that they were like excited to do it. They just said, yeah, of course we can. I'm like, okay, let's make a stick then. And it's, I mean, it might have been about a year now since we started the conversation. But it's super exciting. I'm super honored to have the opportunity to do it. And I'm super proud of what we've made. To have my name on a stick has made me super, super proud.
Congrats. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And without being too awkward and abrupt, there was a part 2 to Derrick's question as well.
Yeah.
And it was, what's your go-to rudiment while playing drums or as a part of your warm-up?
My warm-up doesn't exist. I just play. Well, I have to warm up mentally, or I have to swing my sticks a bit in the air. I just have to get blood into my limbs. The idea of a warm-up for me, it becomes too much like a ritual. And if I don't do this thing, I'm then in my head on stage that I can't perform well. Which might not be true, but for me, it's true.
Yeah.
So I as long as I've got my sticks and I've walked around and I'm laughing with everyone, I can walk up on stage and I can just play, and I've it's fine. Maybe if I was like playing like crazy fast blast beats and stuff, then I might have to warm up. So, go-to rudiment, I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, 5-stroke roll of some kind. If I sit down behind a kit and I just start playing things and I want to look a little bit flash, it's a 5-stroke pattern, and I'm keeping a 4-count quarter note, and I'm doing a bunch of 5s, and then I'll do a bunch of 7s and a bunch of 9s or whatever. But yeah, anything that's right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left. Or I don't tend to do it the other way around with a double so much on the right, but that's obviously a way to do it. I just haven't practiced that as much. But like my boot sequence would be 5 strokes, 1 double stroke, and 3 singles.
Awesome. Well, thanks for answering those guys' questions as well. I'm really excited to when this is edited and whatnot to get their response. And when I lock in the next drummer, I don't know who that will be yet, but I'm hoping it's Anik Niles or Benny Greb's a bucket list drummer that I want to get on. I'll get in touch with you and get you to ask them a question.
Nice. It was really funny. I did the UK drum show last year, and I met almost everyone apart from Annika, but we've never met, right? And there's no reason that she'd know who I was, but I've obviously seen her videos and stuff. And she came out of an elevator, and I remember just going, and she went, hello, and just walked straight past. And I'm like, no, I didn't say hello. It was just this moment where I was like, I know you from the internet, but I've never met you. It was really weird. But yeah, that was a really fun thing. But yeah, I'd be happy to ask question of anyone.
Awesome. Was there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're at all interested in what I do, if you'd like to get in contact with me, if you'd like to learn a little bit each week, I have a mailing list called Rhythm Recap. It's once a week. It's on a Monday. I don't spam people with things all the time trying to sell you things. Yes, I have things for sale, but that's not the reason that I do Rhythm Recap. It's just a weekly email I send out that's got behind the scenes stuff. It's got new lessons that are in there, free ones and paid ones. It's got links to anything that I've written that week. Some things that just I don't post on social media. So if you're interested in following what I do, following some Tesseract stuff, please check that out. You can go to the website, jaypostones.com, click on the link at the top, and it'll take you to the form to sign up for that. And similarly, Tesseract, my band, has got a similar thing where we do Legion Weekly, which is a weekly email to the fans, and it really is fan-focused. It's pictures of you guys at the shows looking cool. It's pictures of you guys with Tesseract tattoos. It's exclusive stuff that isn't on social media. We do like secret T-shirts and things that aren't on the merch store. You're not going to find them on the merch store. We got some really cool plans for that to release Tesseract music and demos of songs that are released, so that you guys get to kind of see these paths that end up being the songs on the records that you won't be able to hear anywhere else. So go to the Tesseract Instagram or Tesseract website to check that out. That's called Legion Weekly, and those are the two things really that I'd like to let people know about.
Awesome. Well, Jay, thank you so much for giving up your time to come chat drums and about yourself with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
No, my absolute pleasure. And hopefully we can keep in touch.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit lost for words, so thank you so much.
That's all good. It's my pleasure. It's been a nice way to start the day after nearly getting headbutt by a goat. So, yes.
It's a good way to wake up.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Jay.
The world